And welcome back, everyone, to In the Spotlight. Today's feature story is Robert McCabe's journey through photography in Greece in the 1950s. And we're very happy to have Robert on air with us, straight from Athens, Plaka area. Robert, welcome to In the Spotlight, and welcome back to New Greek Television to tell us all about your latest book.
Well, the most recent book was a book about Santorini in the years before tourism, and actually the 2 years before the great earthquake that destroyed 85% of the structures on the island.
Yeah.
And the book was written in conjunction with Margarita Pounara, the leading Greek journalist who's at Kathimerini. And we were able to reconstruct a lot of information from the 1950s with the help of a friend in Santorini by the name of Lefteris Orzos, who has a passion for archives. He's actually an archaeologist, so it kind of fits with the business of archaeology. But he's making a major archive of Santorini materials. So if any of your viewers are from Santorini or have information, Lefteri would love to hear from you. But he was able to recreate a lot of the situations that I photographed, including the names of people at a baptism in a village called Emborio in 1954. The names of these children, who are, of course, more than grown up today. So that's the most recent book.
Robert, I want to just tell our audience a little bit about you. For those who are not, you don't know Robert's wonderful work. Robert McCabe has been capturing Greece through his photographic lens since the 1950s. It's been over 6 decades of photography. He has had the wonderful opportunity to visit beautiful places of Greece during this era of which he's captured. He's the only photographer to have captured these images, and they're world renowned. And through your books and through your exhibits, people are able to see the enchanted Greece, kind of stuck in time. That was a wonderful era. It was traditional Greece. Tell us, and then that 1 week of vacation that you went with your brother ended up being a lifetime of living in Greece. Tell us a little bit about your journey, where your beautiful images began, and a little bit more about some of your favorite places.
Well, in 1954, I really was tagging along with my brother. I had barely heard of Greece, but he had a Greek friend from college by the name of Peter Nomikos, and Peter invited him to come to Greece for a few weeks in the summer. So he got a job. My brother got a job on a student ship as the editor of the newspaper on the ship, and he got me a fare that was so low that it was clearly more interesting to travel to Europe than to stay in the States, and a lot cheaper. So we arrived in Greece with the idea of spending 2 weeks there and then continuing on to Egypt, Italy, France. Very soon after we got to Greece, we canceled the entire remainder of the trip. And not only did we cancel the remainder of the European trip, but we also even canceled our trip back to the United States and stayed much longer than we had intended. So it was, for both my brother and myself, love at first sight with Greece and beautiful countryside and the islands, the interesting islands. I keep thinking of those islands and how they were then and how individualized they were and how they each had their own distinct characteristics. Today, they're homogenized. At that time, they didn't have running water. They didn't have sewerage in the villages. They didn't have telephones. They didn't have TV. They didn't have electricity. And basically, there were no cars on an island. I mean, I wonder how many of your viewers have witnessed the way cars used to be unloaded before there were these roll-on, roll-off ferries in Greece. It was a matter of lifting off the deck of a steamer a car with a crane and trying to deposit it on the concrete of a dock. And it was always a great adventure to watch these cars. So there were very, very few cars. You know, many islands just had one car, or many had no cars at all. And there's still islands like that. Last time I was in Nisyros, I think there were maybe 2 taxis.
Well, I mean, you captured an era that was post World War II, and Greece was, impoverished at the time, and they're very telling. Your pictures, you've compiled them in a book, Greece: Enchanted Era, if I'm not mistaken. And it's really a beautiful book. It's everyone who loves Greece should have it on their coffee table and in their bookcase. Wanted to tell you, what do you believe it is that draws, foreigners to Greece? What is it that drew you? What do you believe it is that, kind of resonates with everyone who lands on Greece and loves Greece? What are these elements that keep you coming back for more?
Well, today, of course, I say today in the pre-COVID era, there are a lot of people who come to Greece for the sunshine and the summer parties and the beer and the islands. But the core of people who come here and keep coming back and love Greece, they're attracted, I think, by the hospitality of the people, the beauty of the villages and islands, and the topography, which has enormous variety. The mountains and the sea in combination present vistas that are really unique and beautiful. Walking, there was used to be a path on Patmos that unfortunately is being converted to roadway now, much of it illegally. But I used to call it the most beautiful walk in the world. It was a 40-minute walk from a place called Vaya to a place called Livadi to Yeranu. And the path had probably been there for 2,000 years, going to this fertile part of the island. And it was used by horses and donkeys and the local people. But with the advent of tourism, the pressures for automobile roads became intense. And instead of going around the paths above them or below them, in this particular case, they chose just to bulldoze the path out of existence. And there are many people now who are fighting for a return of these paths because they represent an enormous asset for off-season travel to the islands. My gosh, Tinos has this extraordinary network of old paths, which they've kept pretty well intact. And it's a great attraction to go and be able to hike around and see the beauty of these islands up front. You can't really see it zipping by. And unfortunately, in the case of Patmos, they made a highway with steel fence on one side and a deep culvert on the other. So you can't really walk. There's no place to walk. And it's unappealing to walk on a busy highway. So we're hoping that Patmos, for one, will restore some of these old paths. They still have 3 or 4 pretty much intact pathways that go to Hora from Scala and from Hora to Kipi. But it's a great asset for an island.
It's a great asset, and it's history, it's archaeology, and we have to protect these finds and these paths and everything that has to do with antiquity. I wanted to ask you, your second time back to Greece, back in the 50s, was when National Geographic brought you back for some photography, where you got an opportunity to capture Santorini and a couple of other islands. Let's talk a little bit about your background. So you were born in Chicago. You were born into a family that was in the media business, publishing business rather. Your father had the Daily Mirror, which was later on sold to his competitor, which was the Daily News. And your brother as well was in the business. And so you guys ended up coming to Greece, but you actually continued that path and came back for more pictures. And that's what led you to stay on to Greece and live on the island of Patmos as well. You have a beautiful home in Patmos from what you've told me in the past. So tell us a little bit about your personal journey and connection.
Well, my first job was with the Associated Press in New York as a copy boy, doing errands. Sam Blackman, the legendary Sam Blackman, was the chief of the office at the time. But I did learn lessons about objectivity and reporting from the AP that have never left me. I worked one summer at the Portchester Daily Item as a reporter, which was a tremendous experience, working with a very brilliant reporter whose family came from Albania. And he had a unique mental capability of, in his mind, recording verbatim conversations, which is a devastatingly potent feature for a reporter to have. So I worked also on the college newspaper, but then I, after when I decided on a career, I spent time in the venture capital and investment banking business and had an incredible opportunity to work with some companies like Thermoelectron, which was founded by the MIT professor George Hatsopoulos. And so I had this wonderful time with young companies trying to help them grow. But I always came back to Greece. I think in the last 65 years, I don't know.
You're an honorary Greek and now a Greek citizen, right?
I'm a Greek citizen now, and very, very proud of it. I can call the Aegean Sea my own now to some extent. I hope people wouldn't resent that as Chicago born. But I'm very proud to call myself a citizen of Greece.
Robert, you're doing a great service for Greece. I'm sure I speak for all Greeks when I say that you're promoting Greece, not only the forgotten era of Greece, but you're showing images that have attracted people throughout the world to travel through your kind of travelogue of photography. And you have been able to also bring to life some areas that people are not aware of, such as Trumfades. So that is your third book, if I'm not mistaken, a forgotten era, a vanished era, Trumfades. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that little island that is very important, especially during the Byzantine era because of the monastery?
Well, there's a tiny little island which until recently no one had ever heard of. And then as a result of our book written with Katerina Limperopoulou, we brought some focus on the island. And now we're hoping that people will be inspired, the ministry, to help restore the monastery there. The island is unique in many ways. One of the ways is not something you really want to be unique for, and that is it's in the middle of a very, very busy seismic zone, perhaps one of the most seismically active areas in Europe. And it lies between the island of Zakynthos and Pylos in the Peloponnesus. And it's really in the middle of nowhere, and it's so tiny that it is never, you can't find it on Google Earth until you really blow it up. But there it is, and it's about 1/3 the size of an airport runway. But the seismic activity has been a feature of it for many years, but also it's a bird sanctuary, and ornithological interest is very great because it's on a major flyway between Europe and Africa, and migrating birds stop there, which of course in the past, until it was prohibited, attracted a lot of hunters every year. But many species of birds fly through there, and others nest there. So it's very important from that point of view. It has an amazing cedar forest. I was astounded the first time I walked through this dense forest on a Greek island, on a tiny little island. And I have photographs of cedar trees growing directly out of rocks. And the reason for that is that the limestone covering is over a clay base. And when it rains, the island retains water like a reservoir. It's porous on the top and impermeable on the bottom. So the island is able to sustain agriculture, and that's why the monastery was able to be housed there and have 50 or more monks at a time. The story of the monastery is very interesting. It was set up perhaps in the 11th, 12th century by a Byzantine princess who they say was saved there in a shipwreck. And it is the only Byzantine monastery set up by the emperor, by the emperor's family in the Ionian Sea. So from that standpoint, it's very important. Architecturally, it's quite unique because, as far as I know, it's the only true fortified church in the Hellenic world that remains today. There are fortified churches in France and in Croatia and along the Dalmatian coast, but this one is a true fortified church with one entrance that was, on the third floor level with a staircase and probably a bridge that went to it. And the reason it was fortified was because we know from a long text about the island written in 1420 by Christopher Bondelmonde, that the island was continuously under attacks by pirates, Saracens, Turks, and therefore to survive, they had to fortify the area where they lived, which was primarily in this fortified church monastery combination. And even as late as 1770, the monks were all massacred in a Turkish raid, and there's a memorial on the island to the monks who died, and their bones are preserved on the island. But until that time, Saint Dionysius, the patron saint of Zacynthos, had been buried there at his request, because he had been, among other things in his career, he had been the abbot of the monastery in the Strophazes. And as you know, half the boys on Zacynthos are named Dionysi, It's
Yes,
way
this
of
is a
identifying.
fascinating history that is actually not promoted enough. I mean, this actually should be a UNESCO heritage site, perhaps.
It absolutely should be. And as a matter of fact, I believe we're going to apply to the World Monuments Fund in just a few days now for them to be put on the watch list of endangered sites,
Congratulations.
because it's been badly damaged now by earthquakes, and it can't be open to visitors now because it's unsafe.
Oh, I
Uh,
see. So is it an
but
endangered island because of the seismic activity?
that it's really the seismic activity and time have brought the monastery to a state where it's unsafe really to enter today. When I was last there 3 years ago with Katerina, and we were photographing the island, we were able to photograph every room basically in the monastery, but today you can't go in. Our book celebrates the last monk of the Strophades, who was an amazing man by the name of Father Gregory, who more than for 30 years, he kept this huge facility going, and would welcome the occasional visitor, because it's not on any tour map or any
Right.
shipping route. And Katerina found not only interviewed him before he died, but also found the last lighthouse keeper on the island before they fully automated the lighthouse there. And they also, she found the boatman who used to bring supplies to Father Gregory, who couldn't
Wow.
survive entirely on his own. So we tell the story in the book of all of this, including, St. Dionysius. He's now interred in Zakynthos, but he had wanted to be buried in Strophades, and maybe someday, who knows, maybe he'll go back there.
Have they found any ancient remains? Maybe a temple of some sort there? Anything?
Not yet, but Stavros Mamaloukos, the professor of architecture at Patron University, has done an extensive study of the monastery on the island, and he's very keen to see it brought back to life. But he found interred basically in the basement an ancient church that was, completely the ruins of an ancient church that is hidden from view and hidden from access. Oh. And who knows, this spot could have been a holy spot from very ancient times. We just don't know at this point. But I'm hoping that excavations will be conducted there. It may have been a site of pilgrimage, and that may have been the basis for having the church and monastery there.
That's fascinating, Robert. For all our viewers watching, you can purchase Robert McCabe's wonderful books, the Santorini Portrait of a Vanished Era, Strophades Portrait of a Vanished Era, and Greece, the Enchanted Land. You can find them all on Amazon. I urge everyone to check them out. They are really he captures an era that will, you can never see Greece like this again. Robert, what are some of your favorite portraits, and what is a memory that you really remember very, very vividly that will always remain with you?
I'll tell you a story of, this is a story about Greek, two stories of Greek hospitality. In the early 60s, we were in Santorini. This was actually after the great earthquake of 1956 but the island had not recovered yet and hadn't been rebuilt. But there was a restaurant called Lucas's Restaurant in Fira, in Lower Fira. And I was with a French couple and with the family doctor and my brother. And for an entire week, we had virtually all of our meals there. Someday we would go out with the picnic lunch. And we would always ask for the bill, and Lucas would say, later, later, later. And so on the last day, we said, Lucas, we're leaving on the boat in an hour. We want to settle a bill with you. He said, and were his exact words, souvenir.
I feel words, that's beautiful.
For a week of food. And this poor man was trying to raise a family at the time. Lucas's restaurant's still there. They have a hotel.
Wow. And, God bless him.
I'll never forget. God bless him is right. He's, of course, long since left us.
Yes.
But that act of hospitality. Can you imagine? No tourists, a poor man trying to run a restaurant on a Greek island, and here, 5 people for a week, 2 or 3 meals a day. That would have been a big dent. We snuck into the kitchen and put a sum of money under a plate there for him, because we really felt it was totally wrong to accept that kind of hospitality.
Good for you, Robert. Good for you.
The boat we took that day went to Eos, which was our next stop, and the mayor of Eos gave his bedroom and his bed to the doctor we were traveling with. Doctors were so esteemed in the Greek islands that this New York doctor was a real character. That he slept. The mayor slept on his living room floor.
Oh
and
my
gave
God!
His own bed to the doctor. Have you ever heard of such a thing?
Beautiful memories. Those are really beautiful memories, because that's the spirit of Greece. These are the people. The people. The soul is the people and the history.
It certainly is. And on portraits, I actually it's hard for me. You put me on the spot of thinking of a portrait. I have hundreds of portraits in black and white and in color, and actually now I'm collecting them. I'm very seriously thinking of doing a book called Portraits of the Greeks, one from the 1950s and another one in color from 1957 to the present, because I have nice portraits from from very recent years and times.
Robert, we're big fans. I'm a big fan. My favorite portrait is Sunio and the 3 sisters from Epirus. I love your work. I hope everyone watching will get a chance to see what you've done for Greece and how you've captured Greece through your beautiful lenses throughout these 6 decades. We wish you the best, and we'll keep following what you're doing, and we'll wait for more to come from Robert McCabe, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your time. I know it's late in Greece and Athens. All our love to Athens, Greece, and we wish you nothing but the best, happiness and health.
Thank you so much, Yanna. Kalinikta.
Kalinikta.